Hello, Rio Ferdinand, OBE. I am thrilled that you've joined me on the podcast. And as the captain of England team, you've had 81 caps and one of the most decorated footballers of all time. You probably wouldn't be expecting to come on a Therapy Works podcast, because all the podcasts I've had you on, Peter Crouch, are about football, but the things I'm thinking about with you are more to do with your documentary, Being Mum and Dad, and your wonderful book, Thinking Out Loud, and your kind of private life. And so I guess my first question is, what is a particular challenge you're facing, you've had to overcome?
I think obviously if anyone knows my story, I've had some tragedy in recent years in my life with losing first my wife and then my mum in quick succession. With three young kids to kind of help get through that. And I think obviously those things are huge as well, but if I'm talking about it here and now, it's kind of helping navigate my 5 children through that huge loss and the impact that has in many different ways on those 5 different children that I have.
Because, I think why I particularly applaud you is that often men don't talk about their emotions. Certainly footballers don't talk about their emotions. And from what I understood in the documentary, you as your family didn't talk about emotions, particularly with your dad on your dad's side, much more with your mum. And it feels like part of how you've learned to navigate it, and is still a challenge, is both how you keep going and also allow yourself to experience the emotions that you have, to feel the sadness or the anger or the loss. Because one of the messages I get from you, which I think is a very accurate one, that we don't get over grief. Grief is lifelong, and yet we can still have joy and love and more kids, but it's complicated.
Yeah, it is. And what happens as well, because a lot of people then obviously, especially with social media now, they see you and they see most people at their best on social media. So a lot of people think that, yes, you've been through tragedy and there's loss, etc. And then everybody at the beginning goes, oh, go on, we want you to get a new life. We want you to enjoy yourself and have a new family, new beginning, etc. And then quickly that turns into, oh, you forgot then. You must have forgot. You don't care. You never cared about that. And it's like, no, I'm allowed to have my life. I'm allowed to move forward. I'm allowed to be happy. I'm allowed to say and show how happy I am now. That doesn't mean that what's gone on before and that didn't have a huge impact in your life and that you've totally forgotten that or anything like that. It's just that where you are now, you have to look forward. And yes, you do look back into the past and you do have touch points and you do have those visits, especially with your children, because they need that more than anybody. But you have to be able to move forward and enjoy yourself and show that love can come round again. And for many, for a lot of people, it does. And I'm one of the fortunate ones.
And I was thinking, as I was listening to you, I was thinking the kind of cultural assumptions about grief are exactly like that. You end a chapter, you move on to a new chapter, and there's a new you that moves forward. And I think what I really understand is that your past is very much in your present, and both your past as a footballer, but also your past as the husband to Rebecca, the son of your beloved mum. And when you were saying the touch points with the children, what are the particular times and how do they come out when you have to revisit them?
I think most of the time it'll be around food, around dinner, at the dinner table. Our house is very animated and lively. You can imagine there are 5 children flying about.
5 children. Yes.
Yeah, so and Kate as well. So it's very kind of loud and loads of opinions. But that's where you hear about certain memories. And a lot of the stuff comes around in jovial terms. Like, well, what about? Remember when we used to do that? And you and Mummy would see us doing this, or so yeah. And we might even be talking about discipline, and their mum comes into it because she disciplined them in a certain. They forget, and like me and Kate are carrying out certain things discipline-wise in the house. Like, listen, don't forget, your mum was probably worse. So there's a lot of that. And And then obviously there's sometimes that the kids might have moments where they need that little bit of a soft approach and just going over old things and memories and stuff, and just to reassure them about certain aspects of their childhood as well. Because as I said, my kids were very young when they lost their mum. So the youngest one, especially Tia, doesn't have great memories. So it's about trying to keep giving her those as well, and with either items of clothing or pictures, videos, or just memories is vitally important. And it's a bit different for the boys because they have they remember their mum really well because they had longer time with her. So it's not as hard. And I think, to be honest with you, when you get into a new relationship as well, like I've got Kate now, and she probably has to talk and do stuff around the kid's mum with the kids more than me, because as a woman, and because the great job she's done, naturally they're going to go to that softer person, and they go to her a lot, especially Tia. So when she's feeling emotional or she's not feeling her best, sometimes she'll go to Kate and talk about things. And that's why Kate asked me so many questions about their mum. It's such a weird experience. You've got your current wife is asking a lot of questions about your ex-wife, so she can gain more knowledge and information to be able to then expose the young kids to. It's an unbelievable trait for her to have that, and to have that empathy and that understanding, and that I don't know, you've got to be a strong woman to do that, because the natural instincts of a human being isn't to want to know about the ex-partner of your current partner. Do you know what I mean? So to do that and to fill herself with as much knowledge as she can. We were talking about this the other day, we talk about it loads. It is a weird thing, but it's something that she loves doing because she knows the kids benefit.
And I am really moved by hearing that, how she, who's never met Rebecca, has had to learn to love her in a way, and learn what she was like and who she was, so that she can parent your kids whilst loving their mum. And for you, when you said it's weird, what is weird about it? Is it because your instinct is to sort of shut down and move on as well, or?
No, it's weird because in a way, when you look at it, I mean, it's great, and I commend her, and I thank her crazily for it, because it's a phenomenal trait to have. But it's almost like you've got to put yourself to the side, and embrace your current partner's ex-wife. It's like, it's such a, in a normal world that doesn't happen. You don't talk about your current partner's ex. You don't ask loads of questions. You're not interested in them. You don't want to know about them. So it's such a shift in the mindset of how we're brought up to deal with somebody's ex-partner. But it's for the right reason, obviously.
It is a shift in the mindset. And I think what's really important is recognizing that we have the capacity to love more than one person at the same time. You know, that you can love Rebecca and you can love Kate. And I think we have this very kind of black and white view that once one relationship is ended, another one comes, and you have to kind of forget and move on. But what you're recognizing is that your relationship with Rebecca continues, and your kids' relationship with Rebecca continues. And Kate facilitates that by being the kind of bridge in some ways.
Yeah, she is the bridge, yeah. And I think it's more the relationship with Rebecca will continue, especially through the children, because it's so important. Like, yeah. I had my time with Rebecca, with their mum, but the children is taken away from them. They don't get their memories. So it's so important for me to kind of keep that light burning for the children. So at any point that they come to me or to Kate, we have the ability to kind of brighten that light of their mum for them, so that they can still see her and they can feel her and they can smell her and they can feel that they're almost in touching distance a little bit. And I'm not saying I'm great at it or I'm perfect. I think Kate, it's weird. Kate has to remind me sometimes, listen, maybe you need to go and speak to Tia or to Lorenz or Tate or whatever, about their mum or about this or that. It's weird. It's just because life gets in the way sometimes. So it's the constant, like, I'm lucky I've got someone like Kate. Yeah, you've got to juggle so much, and I'm just lucky that I have someone who's very aware, who's very conscious of the fact that Rebecca still has a huge importance in our house.
And I imagine for you, there are times when you're juggling and missing Rebecca or seeing the children upset and being distressed and working and doing all the stuff that you really miss your mum. It's like you really need your mum. And I wonder if you feel like she had to be sidelined to meet the needs of your children, to get on with life.
Yeah, I mean, my mum's it's a river because she became the children's mum effectively. As soon as their mum passed away, she was the kind of go-to. She was in their life every day, whether it's school pickups and being at home, cooking dinner with us and whatnot, putting them to bed and stuff. She was there the whole time. So it was almost, strange way that the kids lost two
Two
mums
mums.
in a short space of time, within 18 months, 2 years. Um, So yeah, it was a crazy one, but I was quite fortunate in a roundabout way that Kate actually met my mum.
Oh,
I
nice.
think it was 2 years, about 2.5 years maybe. Anyway, but in that period at the end of just before my mum passed away, she actually met my mum a couple of times, and my mum gave her some really good advice. And my mum was very good and intuitive of people, and she's given Kate a few bits of advice that have kind of stood firm with her throughout, even up to now.
In relation to your mum, I was wondering, did you learn, because when Rebecca was dying, you didn't talk about her dying to her.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if that changed when your mum got ill, whether you were able to kind of face it while she was alive.
Yeah, yeah. It was still a really massive blur. Like I've got really big kind of blank spots around the weeks of my mum passing still. And Kate sometimes has to remind me about certain things when we're talking about it, and I go, oh, man, I've completely forgotten about that. But yeah, more in terms of what my mum would want, talking to her about like when my mum was very much about this, and when this happens, I want you to be aware that I would like this, and I want this to happen, and can you do this for me? And so yeah, just talking to her a little bit more about materialistic things was a huge thing, because I think that can get very complicated when there's a lot of family involved. But as much as that, the emotional side of things, and just telling your mum that you love her, and um, talking about old memories a little bit up until the last stages, I think is really important, because I didn't do that first time round with Rebecca, but I tried to do it as much as I could. And I could have done more, I'm sure. But I've done as much just for me at the time was possible.
I mean, I feel so moved by you, Ray, because it's like you let yourself learn. It's almost like you had one mindset when you were a professional footballer where everything was about football, and you kind of zoned in to that. And that was, you could probably replay for me any kick that you did or any goal that you scored or missed for all the times you were a professional footballer. And it feels like you've taken that mindset and used it or turned it with a light towards your life and your kids, so that you're learning, that you've gone on learning and changing, and it isn't your natural kind of default mode. I mean, for instance, 50% of men are half as likely to go to therapy as women. Men, footballers, I think professional athletes, very rarely talk about their emotions. So I'm wondering, I don't know, I'm impressed, but also curious about how you have shifted your mindset.
I think firstly, my children were the drivers,
That's interesting.
because I was when their mum passed away, I was just sitting there going, like, what? How am I going to help them? Like, I don't know how to help them. I don't talk to nobody. I don't really want to go. Like people mentioning therapy, and I was a little bit like, and it was weird. The idea of the TV program just hit the nail on the head, really, because it was probably layers to it. I was going to help my children, and the pressure of a TV program puts pressure on me to actually go through the process of like therapy, opening up, speaking to people who have experienced this and stuff like that, that can then give me so much more that I can then give to my children. So so many factors that meant actually this is a perfect storm, really, in terms of doing the show. It's because in the end, the most important thing to me is my kids, and this gives me the best opportunity to help my kids, but it forces me to go into places that I would never normally go into. So on the journey on the show, you see me going, on the documentary, you see me going to different kind of therapist meetings.
I was an advisor on the documentary.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
I was going to come and see you, and then it was very short notice,
Mm.
and I couldn't see you. But I mean, you feel very different now to the you then, because to you then, it felt like this was a language. I mean, it was a bit like you looked at the dishwasher and you said, I know what you do, but I don't know how to use you. And it was a bit like you looked at therapy and it's like, well, maybe you're useful, but what the fuck?
Yeah.
And it feels like you've come quite a long way from that.
Yeah, and I just think that you have to experience stuff. I'm just like, as a footballer, I was very much like that, and I was laser focused on being the best I can be and training in a certain way and just being very regimented. And I never kind of deviated outside of that pathway that I'd created for myself and set up. Whereas with something like this, that none of us, and the crazy thing is, none of us are taught about death, but it's probably one of the only absolutes in our life. We're all going to die. Do you know what I mean? But we're never taught about it. So,
and we're all going to be bereaved.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't understand why the curriculum doesn't involve that in a much deeper way. So it actually prepares people properly for death, because everything's a fairy tale in life, up until you get to being a man or a woman and living life in the reality. But in the formative years, everything's a fairy tale. We don't talk about death. We don't talk about losing people and stuff like that, where it's a given. But I think I having the experience of Rebecca, then obviously my mum, that came around after, and I was a lot more well prepared for that. But then there's other problems that then arise. It's like bringing someone new into your family. You find someone else that you love, and that brings a whole new ways of different emotions and opinions and relationship breaking and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you that grief should be part of our formal education. And actually, I'd love to ask you after this is what you think should be taught. But also this idea that there's constantly a remapping that needs to be done.
Mm. You have to understand and accept that you are going to change, and do not feel guilty for changing, because you have to evolve. You have to become different, because you're a different person without that person you've lost. It's a fact. That's just normal. And you evolve and you become different in certain ways, and hopefully for the better. But also what's important is the people around you have to understand and accept that you are going to be different. And I think that's been this difficult thing in our life with surrounding relationships around us, within our network, is some people find it difficult to understand that you are going to change, and that is actually acceptable.
It's not only acceptable, but it's vital. Because if you don't change, then you become kind of stuck, and that is really bad for your mental health and for your children's outcome. But I have heard so many times how bringing a new person into your relationship and then changing as a result, because you influence and inform each other, but the people around you are not adapting, and they have very strong opinions, and they want you to do it this way or that way, or then it feels like another loss in a way, because you need the people in your network and your village to support you. But if they're kind of constantly having opinions that don't match yours, it's very complicated.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely made me a harder person emotionally as well. And you have to become selfish. I was a very kind of more giving and more selfless person before. Not that I'm over selfish, but I'm selfish towards my own family now, and my own family come before anybody or anything else. Whereas before I was very much about being open to other people in terms of giving myself, and I think that you see a lot about people as well with trauma and with when losing people. You see a lot about your so-called friends or family, and who really is there for you for the right reasons, and who really have the right amount of, who are willing to sacrifice some of their own emotions for the betterment of your household. Because it's hard for everybody, and I do accept that, and I understand it's very hard for everybody within the network of the person who passed away. It's difficult. but there has to be some understanding of vital elements going forward after that person's left that have to be kind of accepted, understood, and encouraged. And if that doesn't happen, then it can really have a huge negative impact on that household that's been left by that person's gone.
Yeah, I can really understand that. And it's like the quality of your relationship is kind of tested. Like, do they love you enough to let you be yourself?
Yeah.
Or are they kind of
Selfish.
insistent? Yeah, selfish. Okay. That's a direct way of saying it. And that you in some ways have to be ruthless in prioritizing your family setup. You don't want to exclude them, but sometimes I think you do. Relationships change, don't they? There's some people you have to let go and some you can. And I guess some people were better than you expected or you got closer to.
Yeah, definitely. Well, my dad is a prime example. I think you see in his second documentary, my dad was very difficult at the start.
He was.
But if there was going to say one person that if something happened to me now, I know that person would stand up and be there and take care of my family. Well, my dad would be the first person without a heartbeat because he's understanding, he's caring, yes, he was difficult at the beginning, but it was sort of from the right place, but he quickly understood. And now he wouldn't flinch if there was a problem or an issue on my side.
That's amazing. So in some ways you've got closer since Rebecca died. And in some way the documentaries force you to kind of focus on your relationship in a way that maybe you wouldn't have done if you'd been on your own.
Yeah, 100%. And the most pleasing thing is my kids, they're all massively close to my dad. Like yesterday, even my son was talking about it yesterday, like how close they are. It's like my granddad's just not my granddad, he's like a close friend. Like, you can't ask them not much better than that, do you know what I mean? So, and it's unfortunate that you end up losing some people along the way, but that's not because I wanted to lose people. Those people have made, they put me in a position to have to make that choice, which is a shame.
Yeah, it wasn't a choice you wanted to make. I do think that often grandparents, the value of grandparents for loving their grandchildren and having a kind of different relationship than a parent with their children is often unrecognized, that how liberating it can be because they don't have to kind of hold the rules and be strict and get them to school, but they can be people who can be a friend, like Lorenz was saying, that they can, be a really reliable source of love that is incredibly, is more meaningful than we give it credit for.
Yeah, and they can confide in them.
Yes.
They confide, they can speak openly knowing that they have a trust with that grandparent, that they have got some stuff that will be exclusive to their relationship. And that's vital, when especially the kids that my kids have been through what they've been through, and to have that bit of trust outside of our house so they can lean on somebody else. I think hugely important for us. But it's also there's another dynamic in our house. We've got 2 new babies.
Yes.
That make the kids a family of like 7 now. And it's like, we're already talking about how do we navigate that topic of conversation around Rebecca with the 2 new additions and make them understand and so they feel a part of it and that they're all brothers and sisters, but there's obviously stuff that's gone on over here that they're going to have to be made very aware of. So it's just that's another something to add to it.
What are you thinking so far? Where's your thinking got you to?
For me and Kate have been talking about it here and there, and it's he already speaks about Rebecca. He says you can see the picture, he'll say her name because the picture's up in certain places in the house. So it's making him aware of the name and stuff. And then in time when he's a bit more older and he can understand more, and then it's more going to be that we're going to react to his questions and just making sure that we're both aligned when that time comes in a couple of years.
That is so kind of sensitive of you. I mean, one of the things that you were really navigating your way out of, which I see is often a problem, is that when new kids come into the family, the children who aren't the mother's children feel second-class citizens. They feel like somehow they are less than the kids born to the mother, which I'm sure you can understand.
Yeah.
And it feels to me like you're doing everything you can to sensitively give each child a place to know that they're loved and secure and valued, whoever their parent is.
This has been a topic, crazy saying, which has been a real kind of hot topic in our house between me and Kate. You know, you have that like kind of a debrief at the end of every day just before you go to bed as a couple. And one of them to make topics.
Well, I don't know that you do, but I'm glad you do, because it seems that that's quite important.
Yeah, no, it is. So we one of them conversations has been around people externally, people going, "Oh, Kate, guys, Kate, you got two kids now, unbelievable." And Kate doesn't know how to control her anger, emotions around that type of comment, because and I say, listen, I think sometimes people they know you've got 5 kids, but then you've got 2 newborns, so they maybe, and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt in some way, but she's like, if the kids are in earshot and they hear that is out of order. Like, there's 5 kids, they might not be biologically mine, but they're treated exactly the way I would treat the 2 that I've got that are biologically mine. So I would like that to be understood and valued when you're talking about our family or our kids. But it's just, it's hard, isn't it? And someone said something the other day, and Kate's face was like, she just sat there blank, and the person quickly corrected themselves. Because I just think it wasn't being rude, it just was an honest mistake that she had made, but she quickly corrected herself based on Kate's reaction. So it's difficult. I think it's difficult for everyone talking about it, but also us seeing it on the receiving end of a comment. It's quite difficult.
It is difficult, but I love her fierceness. And it looks like you like it too. Yes.
Yeah, I love it.
It's like, no, I am not going to allow that, you know, and these are all of my kids, and I love them all the same, whether they're biologically my kids or not. And I can see that as the dad to all of these kids, that generosity must really be the thing that has really supported you most in your kind of going forward, that you love someone who loves you and loves your kids.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the most important things at the beginning. When you're looking for a new, or where you come across somebody who fits the bill of maybe being the potential partner for life. In my situation, I'm thinking massively, yes, I'm infatuated with this woman, but at the same time, a huge driver in will I stay with her or will I not will be if my kids can be on the same page with her. Will she invest in my children? Like, if we're talking in football terms, I couldn't have made a better pick. I couldn't have gone and recruited somebody any better than what I've got. I've got an unbelievable
your team.
Yeah, so I've got an unbelievable woman who, like I say, has kind of put herself firmly at the back of the pack, and made sure that the kids in our household have been the center of her attention. And she sacrificed in terms of her own dignity at times, her own feelings, to make sure that the kids are always the number one at the forefront of her mind. So it's been, and making sure that the kids, yes, there's newborn kids, but you're not going to feel any different, and you're not going to be treated any different. And I think that's a huge thing. So yeah, in the transfer window, I made a great recruit.
You did make a great recruit. And in thinking from a football kind of public-private aspect, the other thing I was thinking about you, and I know we need to end in 5 minutes, is you seem to have successfully navigated having a very well-known public face, and in some ways bringing your private experience to the benefit of others, because you want other people to kind of learn from your experience, but somehow hold the boundary. I wonder how you do that.
I've never really let the kids do public, and I think that's the right reason. We still think that, but it's finding the right balance. I never was really putting my private life on out in the public domain, but when I had the opportunity through the documentary, through the book and stuff, it was like, it's the ability to help a lot of other people. First my kids, but then help other people. And I thought that was just a compelling reason for me to kind of get involved and open myself up. And I think that you look in today's society, like you said at the top of the podcast, is that most men don't even entertain the idea of therapy. Most men don't even talk about their feelings or emotions, let alone shedding a tear. And I let myself go to them points and go to those areas, and how it alleviated pressure, stress, and anxiety off my shoulders and made me feel a lot lighter through all of those different things and approaching all of those different areas. I had to let people know that, listen, this ain't a bad thing. This isn't something you should shy away from. You're going to actually feel better. It's like people tell you don't take painkillers because they're not good for you long term, but they're going to make you feel better. So you go with it, and actually long term you're going to be okay. Do you know what I mean? It's just like you just got to go with it. I don't know if that's a good analogy or not, but
it is.
But you should just go, and these things will immediately make you feel better short term, but long term you feel better again.
I obviously as a therapist really applaud what you're saying, but it's from your experience. So your experience is that, of course, you want to turn away from pain, and it's counterintuitive to let yourself feel it and express it and be open about it. But actually what you're saying is that by expressing it and letting yourself go there in the way that you did with your tears and your anger and being open with me now, you actually feel lighter and better. It is going through it releases you, whereas you think going through it will make you feel worse.
Yeah, and the thing is people are going to speak about, or you're going to come into situations where it's not necessarily about you, but that advert on TV or someone mentions something that it seems like it's about your situation. That's going to happen so much in your life. If you don't approach it and address it, you're never going to be able to deal with those scenarios and then situations, and you're always going to feel tense and uptight and like upset and emotional. So if you open yourself to speaking about these things, it's going to be in your life anyway, and you can navigate yourself through it so much easier and without kind of that pain and anger and angst that comes with these situations if you don't approach it right.
Yeah, because it's protective. So if you're approaching it by being honest and authentic, when a difficult situation occurs and comes through you, you've kind of been there already, and you haven't battened down the hatches and felt kind of, that you're going to be attacked because you've already opened enough.
And I think if you don't go to therapy, or you don't talk to people, or you don't even acknowledge that this has happened and embrace kind of being a bit open about it and having conversations with people that had experiences with this or etc., you end up walking about, not actually literally, but you are walking around like this. And you're walking around. Please don't mention
for the podcast. Can you say what you're doing with your arms?
Yeah, you're basically walking around with your hand over your head.
Yeah.
But and hoping that no one speaks, and you're wincing at the fact that if anybody mentions death or bereavement or loss, or do you know what I mean? Or somebody else having a partner, or somebody else having a full family that you once had, like everywhere you go, you see something that will just trigger you back to that bad place if you don't open yourself up. And who wants to walk around with their hands over their head, hands over their ears, wincing at frightened to hear or see or feel something that might just trigger memories or emotions of their past?
If to people listening to your podcast, whether it's men or women, is your message the things that you can face and allow yourself to feel are the things in the end that you can live with and engage with life, but the things that you kind of block and put your head over your hands over your head for fear of being upset is in the end the things that do you harm.
Exactly that. I couldn't have put it any better myself. If you don't approach these things, you're never ever going to get rid of the pain. No one's saying that the pain goes forever, but it softens the pain. No one's saying for you to forget everything and delete everything. You're just saying that it can be compartmentalized a little bit, and it's there. And when it's approached, when it's mentioned, and when you're triggered by it, there's no negativity. You embrace that memory. It's a smile. It's not a frown. It's not always a tear. But crying is fine. And I think that I was one of the most kind of stoic, kind of not macho, but I was in a changing room full of 25 guys who all wanted to be the most macho in that room. And so showing emotion, showing fear, showing vulnerability, showing tears was an absolute no-no. And for me to have been able to step out of that and to soften up, so to speak, and to embrace all these emotions and these different kind of routes to finding the better part of myself and being able to deal with these emotions, I just thought if I can be that kind of guy at the moment, because I didn't see those examples around, then I'm going to be helping a lot of people. So if I can do it, guys, listen, it's possible for everybody to do it.
That's such an inspirational image to end on, Rio. This idea of all these 25 guys being macho in the changing room, and then you've kind of stepped out of there and inhabited all of yourself. Not just the macho guy. You've still got the macho guy, but you've got these different versions of yourself that can cry and can laugh and can love and can play and be silly and work in a way that were not available to you before when you were just like this football machine.
100%. Sure. You put it well. Much. I like that.
Did you like that? Good. Thanks. I'll take that. Thanks, Rio.
Well, thank you very much, guys. I've enjoyed that. Really nice. Nice way to start the day.
Good way to start the day. Thank you.